Welcome to the lecture on the global network of the light of Genesis. Over the next hour, we're going to talk about this global network, what the project is. We're going to talk about the star of Genesis. We'll go over the information that Lantos has given us in the past few months, as well as new information that you haven't yet heard about, talking about things such as the water cells. Then we'll talk about the plan for action, how we actually move forward in the project to generate this global network of the light of Genesis. Let's start out, however, with the star of Genesis itself. We first heard Lantos talk about a star back at the end of last year. He simply mentioned an 8-pointed star in one of his messages. That was the very first time that we heard anything from Lantos about a star. Then, on January 2nd of this year, Lantos first mentioned the star of Genesis. He said that we were taking 10 days to help create the star of Genesis. Then on January 9th, Lantos said, a beautiful structure is forming, a brilliant star. It is the radiant star coming out of the universal light of creation, eternal light moving to form the great star of light, the great star of Genesis. Yes, dear masters of the light of Genesis, eternal light is on the move, emerging into the structure of the brilliant star of Genesis, with radiant points of light spreading out in all directions. A couple days later, Lantos spoke more about it. He said, dear ones, the new structure is a beloved great star. Dear ones, the blessed rays of this great star will reach out across creation. Blessed masters of the sublime light of Genesis, the brilliance of the great star of Genesis will be seen throughout creation. Dear ones, the blessed star of Genesis is the form emerging for the blessed new era of eternal light. It is the expression of eternal light out of which creation emerges. So we started to get an idea that the star of Genesis was important, it was big, that it was going to cover all of creation, but we didn't actually know what it was. Then Lantos, over the next month, spoke about moving from one house to a new house. It was an analogy he gave. When you move from an older, smaller house to a newer, bigger house, the rooms are larger, they allow you to do more things. The windows are larger and clearer, and they allow you to perceive things better with greater light. The appliances are newer, they allow you to do things you couldn't do in the old house. The concept being that when you move into a new structure, new things become possible that were not possible in the old structure. Then Lantos revisited this analogy on February 20th. He said, great activities lie ahead. There is great work to be accomplished. It is a most beautiful time, a most precious time in creation. We are building the new form, the new framework for the sublime light of creation. The house must be built. Only then the family enters. This is the time of the great transformation, the period of entry into the new era of eternal light. The new structure of eternal light is emerging. This beloved form, this framework for creation, must be established in the expression of fullness, established to uphold the presence of the sublime radiance of eternal light. This blessed form for the new era is the beloved great star of Genesis. Beloved masters, the earth is a blessed structure, a home, a radiant home, capable of supporting the highest expressions of life, purity, and knowledge. During this blessed time of the period of the great transformation, our beloved home is experiencing great change as the old structures are swept away. It is the blessed time of the emergence of the new structure, the new form. It is the blessed process of the emergence of the great star of Genesis. At this present time, beloved masters of the light of Genesis, we call upon your great assistance. The formation of a new structure requires many hands, much attention and preparation, and many hands to carry out the necessary functions. Dear ones, dear masters of the light of Genesis, collectively, we will weave together the beams of eternal light. So with this message, we started to understand that the star of Genesis might have something to do with the planet Earth itself, that the Earth was the home. And he said we are moving into a new home, one that allows greater activity. He said that we are sweeping away the old structures of Earth. So the star of Genesis is going to have something to do with the planet itself. And then it was at this time that Lantos provided his inaugural message, his inauguration of the global network of the Light of Genesis. This was on February 24th. Greetings, blessed masters of the Light of Genesis, dear masters of the art of creating, blessed radiant beacons of the Light of Genesis. The sun shines with great brilliance on this sun day. On this blessed sun day, the vision is illumined. The path is seen with great clarity. On this day of radiance, we receive the blessed vision of the new form, the coming structure for the era of eternal light. It is the vision of the formation of the great star of Genesis. Beloved masters, we will establish star cells of the light of Genesis, chambers of eternal light throughout the world. We will enliven this great network of light, this blessed great star of Genesis, throughout the lands and the waters of earth. There is yet a residue of the past era remaining on earth. It is a residue of past actions, past deeds, past events. Even thoughts generated on the mental plane are stored in the grounds of the earth. But great amounts of this memory have been enlivened, awakened in the light of Genesis. The storage of negative energies has been greatly reduced. Time has directed this release. With the passage of time, many of the impressions of the past are shed. This occurs naturally over time, but certain areas retain the hardened patterns of the past. These may be areas or locations of greatest chaos, locations of disaster, locations of war and misconduct. These impressions or residue of actions are picked up by the individuals living in those areas. The forces of energy, the expressions of life, are influenced by the residual structure of memory. This force of residue may be the cause for the creation of storms, the spread of disease, the general values of either progress or suffering for the area. It is the value of interaction between the residual force and the current impulses of energy which give rise to the structuring of the day-to-day events of life. Blessed masters of the sublime light of Genesis, the precious tools and techniques of eternal light have far-reaching effects on the layers of existence. When one cleans the house, one sweeps and mops and scrubs the surface level of dirt. When one places in the room a great pyramid of Genesis, one enlivens the sleeping values of the surroundings. One awakens the values of the light of Genesis within that vicinity. Dear ones, for the purification and enlivenment of each home on this precious earth, we cannot think in terms of placing one by one tools. Just as in the early days, a message was delivered by foot. One walked across town to deliver the information to another. Great expeditions were designed to bring knowledge to another region of the world. The spread of information was a difficult process, requiring much time. Then came the radio and the telephone, and one could place a call directly into the other country. One could sit in the home and speak to the person in the next country. This process of greater ease, greater ability, develops with time. The change comes with time. Now the satellites are carefully positioned in the skies in order to transmit the signals, carry the information, the knowledge, to all parts of the world. One may sit on the mountain top and receive the message from the friend in the city. This, dear ones, is a network for information. We are today inaugurating a network for the light of Genesis, a webwork, a network capable of enlivening the beams of eternal light throughout the world such that all receive illumination. The enlivenment of the precious webwork, the precious structure of the great star of Genesis, will enliven the radiance of eternal light, making it available to every individual in every location on earth. This radiant structure emerging is the form for the light of Genesis for this precious planet. It is the form to support the activities of the era of eternal light. The messenger carrying the information on foot could not have dreamed of the possibilities which exist at the present. Like this, the scope of the transformation of ability for all existence is beyond the dreams or imagination. It only required the insight of a few to change the lives of all. Only a few. Blessed masters of the light of Genesis, masters of the art of creating, we will enliven the blessed great star of Genesis for all. This is the inauguration of the blessed network of the light of Genesis. This network will be formed by individual star cells of eternal light, together forming chambers of eternal light. 10 star cells together form one chamber of eternal light. Individual star cells are constructed in the form and nature of the beloved great star of Genesis. It is a blessed form of creation emerging for the earth as the structure or webwork of radiant beams of eternal light, supporting life and all actions in the era of eternal light. One chamber of eternal light consisting of 10 star cells of the light of Genesis. The requirement for the structuring of this blessed form for earth is based upon the residue of thoughts and actions of the population of earth. Each individual is a vibrant receptacle influenced by the imprinted memories of the actions of the past, which are stored and emitted through the lands and waters of the earth. These chambers of eternal light must be positioned in locations based on past and present populations. A chamber consisting of 10 star cells may be placed in the ground or may remain on the surface of Earth. There should be one chamber for every 1 million population of Earth, each positioned in the ground in the general area of that population. This, beloved masters of the light of Genesis, is the task at hand: to construct a blessed network of the light of Genesis capable of supporting the emergence of the new form, the beloved great star of Genesis, for the era of eternal light. For this beloved task, we will ask our beloved director of the light of Genesis to appoint coordinators for each region. In this way, the positioning of the blessed chambers of eternal light will correspond to the need of the area. One may appoint a director for a region, for a country, for a continent of land and people. Blessed masters of the light of Genesis, the task is great. Each star cell will be trained with the sublime energy of the light of the great star of Genesis. Yes, dear ones, today we inaugurate our blessed network of the light of Genesis, a network, a webwork, formed by the radiant beams of eternal light, the illumining rays of eternal light of the great star of Genesis. Many blessings, dear ones. In this inaugural message, Lantos gave us the structure for this global network. He started out by explaining that we cannot think in terms of placing biogenesis tools in every home. We can't make billions of biogenesis pyramids making sure that there's one in every single home. Instead, what we have to think of is a network, much like a satellite network. This global network of the light of Genesis will then provide the eternal light of Genesis for everyone on the planet. To form this global network, we create star cells, individual star cells that are in the form and carry the energy of the great star of Genesis itself. These small star cells come together in clusters of 10. Groups of 10 create chambers of eternal light. And we need one chamber of eternal light for every 1 million people on the planet. This is the formation of the global network of the light of Genesis. A couple weeks after that, Lantos provided us with the detailed steps, what we were going to do to structure the foundation of this global network. On March 3rd, Lantos said, "Today we begin the structuring of the framework of the network of the light of Genesis, the network of the light of Genesis. Beloved masters of the light, the steps for accomplishing this blessed task are great, and there is much work ahead. We will require the dedicated assistance of many blessed masters of the light of Genesis. Today we will offer the framework upon which this blessed network of the light of Genesis may be constructed. Through the assistance of our blessed masters of the light of Genesis, we will structure the form for the era of eternal light, the form of the great star of Genesis. The brilliant light of the great star of Genesis will shine for all. For all. First, we must establish the cells, the star cells. The cells are formed and the life emerges. The cells carry the signature of the life. The cells carry the knowledge, the organizing energy for life to emerge. These star cells, positioned properly according to the general areas of population, these star cells carry the knowledge, the information for the emergence of the beloved great star of Genesis. The knowledge is contained within the cells. The knowledge and the energy is contained within the blessed star cells. Each beloved individual wishing to assist in this blessed program to create the network of the light of Genesis will become a tool, an instrument of the era of eternal light. One's hands, one's feet, one's life is blessed with the radiance of the form of the era of eternal light, the sublime radiance of the great star of Genesis. To assist in this program, to assist in the creation of the individual star cells, or to assist in the worldwide placement of these clusters of star cells, the blessed chambers of eternal light. These actions to create, actions to position properly, these actions carry great energy of the beloved great star of Genesis. The life force of the individual gets aligned with the brilliant beams of the light of the great star of Genesis. The individual engaged in this activity, the activity to create the blessed star cells, the activity to position the chambers of eternal light, the life force of the individual devoted to these activities gets infused with the energy contained within the beloved great star of Genesis. The life gets immersed in the essence of the brilliant form of the era of eternal light, bathed in the radiance of the sublime light of the great star of Genesis. The thoughts, the actions, the life gets illumined with this blessed form of sublime radiance. There is a worldwide requirement of 7,000 clusters of star cells, chambers of eternal light. The task is great. The process to create this quantity of star cells requires vast resources, and there is a tremendous need at this time for assistance to come from our beloved masters of the light of Genesis. Beloved masters of the light of Genesis, you have worked tirelessly for many years in the enlivenment of the Genesis energy for creation. These actions, this dedication, and the dynamics of time have brought about this blessed process of the great transformation. This is the great shift of the structure of life, the shift from the suffering brought about by darkness into the era of eternal light. This, dear ones, is the great transformation, and as foretold by the wise of every culture, this blessed period in creation is now. This is the time. The initial phase in this blessed process has been accomplished. The light must be sufficient for the new form to be seen. Dear ones, just as the foundation must be prepared before the framework is erected, the light of Genesis must be enlivened before the new form emerges. The land must be prepared, settled, leveled, and prepared. Then the foundation is set. Dear ones, we have set the foundation. Now it is time for the construction of the form. The foundation is of utmost importance. The entire development or construction of the form can only be based upon this platform. The solidity, the stability, the scope of the new structure is already established by the quality and design of the foundation. Our foundation, dear ones, is solid. The light of Genesis, enlivened by the performance of the techniques of eternal light, the art of creating, the use of the blessed tools of Genesis, all of the efforts of our beloved masters of the art of creating have established a brilliant structure, a brilliant foundation upon which the new form for the era of eternal light may emerge. This form, dear ones, is the beloved great star of Genesis. The foundation is accomplished. The second phase is the process of creation. In this phase, dear masters of the art of creating, you will find the blossoming of your abilities. In this process of creating, you will find the fruits forming from the seeds which you have laid and tended to in your performances of the blessed techniques of eternal light. Creation is the second phase in this beloved formation of the era of eternal light. Creation of individual units of eternal light, the star cells. This is the construction of the framework. The final phase in this blessed process of the great shift in creation is the formation of the network of the light of Genesis. And this is accomplished through the proper placement of the clusters of star cells. Many hands of light will be required for the proper placement of these chambers of eternal light throughout the lands. There will also be star cells specially designed for placement within the waters of the earth. The blessed cells, these star cells, carry great power and energy. Each contains the signature of the blessed great star of Genesis, just as every cell in the body is imprinted with the knowledge of the form. Dear ones, at this time we will ask for the assistance of those who are able to offer the resources for the creation of the blessed star cells for the network of the light of Genesis. Every blessed master of the light may participate in this phase, either in an individual scale or on a larger scale. Each home of our blessed masters should have at least one chamber of eternal light. Many performances are to come which will use the blessed energy of this great structure of the great star of Genesis. By the middle of this year, we will see 1,000 star clusters in place around the world. With this energy in place, we may begin our instructions in the techniques and use of the blessed star cells in the era of eternal light. It is a beautiful emergence of the blessed great form of the light of Genesis for all. In this message, Lantos described the structure for the framework of the global network of the light of Genesis. He started out by talking about the star cells, that we have to create the star cells. These individual pieces, which are small, fit in the palm of your hand, that carry the energy, the knowledge of the great star of Genesis itself. He explained that there would be 7,000 clusters, 7,000 chambers of eternal light spread around the world. That is 70,000 star cells that have to be created for this project. Now, the first phase of the project, Lantos said, has already been completed. It is laying the foundation, and this is what you have done over the past many years in your practices of the techniques of biogenesis, whether they were the actual biogenesis treatments, whether they were the techniques that we have been taught over the past years, whether it's the enlivenment of the personal pathway or the technique of transformation. Each of these activities that you have done has helped to build the foundation. Like Lantos said, our foundation is solid. The second phase is actually creating the star cells. So he started out by talking about them, but this is actually the second phase of the process, the actual creation of the star cells, the production of them. And for this, Lantos said, we require vast resources to be able to produce 70,000 star cells to be placed around the world. Now, this process we have started. We have started with the initial batch to be placed around the world. But this is only the initial batch. There are many more batches to create these 70,000 star cells. The final phase is the actual formation of the global network of the light of Genesis. For this, people will place these chambers of eternal light all around the world in areas of population. And Lantos gave us a goal, 1,000 chambers of eternal light positioned properly in areas of population by the middle of this year. So this is our goal, 1,000 of these chambers of eternal light. That's 10,000 star cells positioned by summertime. A couple weeks later, Lantos spoke about the effect of these chambers of eternal light on an individual location, especially your home, placing a chamber of eternal light in your home. What Lantos said was, "Beloved masters of the art of creating, we are blessed with the task of preparation. We are trained in the knowledge of the light of Genesis and the precious knowledge of the dynamics of the process of creating. Many hands are required for this great task. We will establish 1,000 chambers of eternal light by this coming mid-year, positioning properly the clusters of star cells such as to support the blessed network of the light of Genesis. At that time, we will train our blessed masters of the light in the techniques of the great star of Genesis. These instructions will be on the use of the blessed chamber of eternal light in aligning the physical structure of the body with the form of the luminous rays of the great star of Genesis. Dear ones, as these chambers of eternal light are established in the proper locations, forming the brilliant network of the light of Genesis, your own homes will become holy grounds, grounds blessed with a streaming radiance of the luminous rays of the great star of Genesis. Yes, it is beautiful. For this blessed, great task, all hands of assistance are required. We are erasing the negative residue remaining in the lands and even in the waters of this precious body of earth. Sublime energy and balance will emerge for the entire system." So in this, Lantos made it clear that when you have a chamber of eternal light in your home, it's not just part of this network, it helps to create holy ground on your home, at the location of your home. Lantos spoke further about the effect, the influence of these chambers of eternal light just a couple weeks later. He said, "Each beloved chamber of eternal light consists of 10 star cells. These blessed star cells, assembled in the clusters forming chambers of eternal light, will rid the lands of the residue of the effects of action, human condition, thoughts, actions. The residue must be cleared away. The blessed chambers of eternal light are not only responsible for the clearing away of the past, together they form the beloved network of the light of Genesis, the structure for the emergence of the great star of Genesis, the form for the era of eternal light. The phase of creation is underway. Soon we will be generating the beloved star cells. By the middle of this year, we will have positioned the first 1,000 chambers of eternal light, and we will be set to receive the instructions for the personal use of the star cells, as well as our blessed water cells." So in this message, Lantos made clear the dual function of the chambers of eternal light. One is to eliminate, to wipe away the residue of past bad actions. But then the second purpose is, of course, to create the network, the global network, connecting one to another for the global network of the light of Genesis. So these are the functions of the star cells clustered together as chambers of eternal light. But then at the end of this message, Lantos also mentioned another type of cell, the water cell. The water cells are special. And Cindy asked Lantos just a couple weeks ago, if he could speak more about the water cells. He said these cells will receive the knowledge of initial rotations. Their role is different. Their mission is different from the blessed star cells. The mission is to enliven the level of creation responsible for generation. This is the level of the process of initial rotations. Life is born out of the waters. The role of water is to purify and nourish all. The role of land is to serve as the platform for all action. Therefore, the land must support structure. When the land can no longer purify itself, the waters must rise up to cleanse and absorb the impurities. Daily, the waters fall upon the lands. Where the waters do not fall, these places of land are not intended to support much activity. When activity occurs in these locations, impurities accumulate, owing to the lack of the cleansing waters. Yes, this is the difference. The blessed network of the light of Genesis is structured on the land by the 7,000 chambers of eternal light. And in the waters we will initialize water cells to carry the enlivened level of creating, the level of initial rotations. These water cells will be initialized at the seat of eternal light. With these water cells, our blessed masters of the art of creating will command the nature of the waters. We will train one water cell for each beloved master of the light, and with this single cell, the waters of other areas may be transformed into the holy waters of the elixir of life, to support the individual sequence code for the enlivenment of the memory within the cells of the body. Now, right at this point, when my family heard this answer, we all started wondering. It sounded like Lantos said that a water cell would be able to be used by a person to create his or her own elixir of life. And this was exactly the question that Cindy asked Lantos. Cindy said, so with one water cell, people can make their own elixir of life. And Lantos said, yes, we are offering the master tools to our beloved masters as we shift into this blessed era of eternal light. Cindy asked another question about this. Lantos said, yes, one water cell for the production of holy waters. It will be initialized specifically for one individual. Cindy then clarified, she said, if she got a water cell, she wouldn't be able to use it to initialize an elixir of life for me. And Lantos said, yes, one water cell. Actually, Lantos said, yes, the rules are the same because the process is the same. This is the value of the great transformation. What was once impossible now becomes possible. The changes will be seen in all areas of life, all fields of research, all areas of health and travel, food production, and weather concerns. The blessed network of the light of Genesis offers the structure for the new era, the new form for the era of eternal light. So in this message, Lantos introduced the water cells. He explained that their mission is different from the star cells. The star cells are placed on land, and they form the network, the global network of the light of Genesis. But the water cells are different. He explained that the masters of the art of creating would be able to use the water cells to command the nature of the waters. And he explained that you would be able to use water cells to initialize your own elixir of life, anywhere in the world, wherever you were. So this was certainly a surprise. A couple days later, Cindy asked Lantos some questions. She asked if it was necessary for someone, if they wanted to use a water cell to initialize their own elixir, should they have a chamber of eternal light in their home? Lantos said, dear ones, this is a very good question. Very good. This beloved network will function in a way similar to the satellite network in the skies. The knowledge and the beams of energy are transmitted from chamber to chamber, forming a global network of the light of Genesis, a framework to support the mighty structure of the era of eternal light. Each unit, each chamber will generate an influence covering a particular area or segment of the Earth. Together, the 10 star cells generate these blessed beams of eternal light, the beams issuing out in all directions, the beams which at once purify the residual influence of action, the residue of human condition, while at the same time structure the framework through which the beloved great star of Genesis emerges as the form for the era of eternal light. This is the role of the blessed network of the light of Genesis, and we are structuring this network through the proper placement of our beloved star cells, assembled in clusters or chambers of eternal light and spread throughout the world according to the populations. Now, when an area, a large area such as a continent or a very large region, has received the structure required with the appropriate numbers and placement of star chambers, this entire region is awakened to receive the influence of the mighty great star of Genesis. At this time, dear masters of the light of Genesis, there will not be a requirement for individual chambers of eternal light placed in each home. Once the network of the light of Genesis is established, the individual needs are met by the influence of the global network. Do you see? This beloved mighty form of the great star of Genesis is for all. Prior to the establishment of the blessed global network of the light of Genesis, it will be essential to have several chambers of eternal light within a close range of distance in order to initialize the individual holy waters. One chamber of eternal light generates the blessed energy, the reflection, the signature of the beloved great star of Genesis. In the early days of our program to establish the global network of the light of Genesis, it will be essential to have other components in order for the process of initialization of the holy waters to occur. It will be essential to have at least one chamber of eternal light in the same location. In addition, and depending upon the surrounding population, there may be a requirement for additional chambers of eternal light to be placed either within the same household or spread throughout the surrounding areas. For instance, if the individual is located within a large city, it may be necessary to place 5 or even 10 chambers in the near vicinity within the city. This need for greater numbers of chambers is owing to the early status of the global network, the framework supporting the rise of this beloved mighty structure. The framework is not yet in place. Until the requirements are met for the region, it will be necessary to place additional chambers in order to initialize the holy waters. Also, it will be essential to initialize the individual holy waters in the presence of a great seal of Genesis. This great seal must hang directly above the table of initialization. In the early days, greater efforts are required to accomplish the same results, which will come effortlessly as our beloved global network of the light of Genesis is formed. Great efforts are required in the transition time, the time of the great transformation. And through these blessed efforts, the course and direction is established for thousands of years to come. In this message, where Lato spoke much more about the water cells, he explained that, importantly, once an area, we don't have to wait for the entire planet. Once a large area, a region, or a continent has the sufficient number of chambers of eternal light positioned appropriately in accordance to population, once this is accomplished, then that network is enlivened for that area, and it will not be necessary to have a chamber of eternal light within the home to be able to initialize one's own elixir of life. However, until that time, it will be necessary to have at least one chamber of eternal light within the home in order to initialize the elixir. And in fact, in some cases, such as large cities, it may be necessary to have multiple chambers of eternal light in your home or in your immediate area. Lato said for a large city, you may even need 5 or 10 chambers of eternal light in the early days in order to be able to initialize the elixir of life within your home. Latos also gave the instruction that you would need to have a great seal of Genesis hanging above the table of initialization. But this gives us the instructions for the early days, before the network has been established for the entire world, those of you who want to be able to start initializing your own elixirs of life in the early days as soon as possible. These are the instructions for being able to do so. Now let's talk about an overview. Let's give an overview of the global network of the Light of Genesis, what Lantos has told us so far, what we know so far. First off, we know about the star cells, the individual tool. It's going to be smaller than 2 inches in diameter, so it's small, fits easily in the palm of your hand. It is in the form of an 8-pointed star, and it carries the knowledge, the energy of the star of Genesis. 10 of these star cells together, arranged in a specific arrangement, will create a chamber of eternal light. These clusters of 10 star cells create the chambers of eternal light. These need to be positioned in areas of population, and they also need to be arranged in accordance to the altitude where they will be placed. So for example, if you place the chambers of eternal light for Miami, it will be at one altitude. If you place the chambers of eternal light for Denver, it's at a different altitude. So the arrangement of the star cells will be different. The chambers, the placement of the chambers. First, you can certainly place them in your home. And Lantos made clear in these past messages about the water cells, you could have multiple chambers of eternal light in your home. And in fact, in the early days, if you're wanting to initialize your own elixir, you would need to have this. But we didn't actually know that you could have more than one chamber of eternal light in your home until just a week ago when Cindy asked Lantos this question. She asked if it was possible to have more than one chamber of eternal light in a home, and Lantos said yes, there may be a concentration of the beloved chambers of eternal light. Cindy then asked if there was more than one chamber of eternal light in a home, would the effects cover a greater range? So if you have one chamber of eternal light, it goes a certain distance, but if you have 3, does it go a greater distance? Lantos said yes, this will be a very bright spot on Earth. Cindy asked if it would cover the area that it's supposed to, and Lantos said yes, up to a limit, up to a certain point. And Cindy said, so that would mean that we can't place an entire continent's chambers of eternal light in just one home. So for example, we couldn't place 300 chambers of eternal light in just one home in the United States and have it cover the United States and so on. Lantos said, this is correct. Cindy asked, then what about a city? Would you be able to place all of the chambers of eternal light for an entire city in just one home? For example, if you live in the middle of a city and it's a city of 2 million people, could you have 2 chambers of eternal light and have it cover the entire city? Lantos said, in many cases, yes. Let us see a plan. He wanted to see a plan for the placement of these chambers of eternal light. Now, in addition to placing them in your home, you can certainly place them on the land, like in your backyard. You could bury them in the land. So if you're going out into the desert, you could bury them in the land there. They can be placed in your office as well. So in the ground or above the ground is fine. Lantos also gave us the goal, the task at hand, which is 1,000 of these chambers of eternal light need to be positioned by the middle of this year, by summertime. So this is our goal. And that brings up a very relevant and practical question, and that is, what's the cost? What is the price? For the individual star cells, the Star of Genesis tool itself, the cost is going to be $265, but we always provide a discount when we introduce a new tool, and we're doing the same thing here. Through April 30th, any order for the star cells, the individual star cell, the price will be discounted by $100, so it will be $165. For the chambers of eternal light, these are 10 star cells clustered together, so they will be 10 times the cost, $2,650. But during the initial discount period through April 30th, any order for the chambers of eternal light will be at a 50% discount, so $1,325. Now there is another price for Chambers of Eternal Light, and this is for donated Chambers of Eternal Light. Of the 7,000 Chambers of Eternal Light, well over half of them are going to have to be donated. And for those people who have the resources and are interested in helping others and helping other parts of the world, those orders for Chambers of Eternal Light to be donated will be at a significant discount. They will be $795, and this will be the price without expiration. So past April 30th, this will still be the price for the donated Chambers of Eternal Light. Finally, the water cells. We don't actually have information on the water cells as far as their cost. So we will get that information to you as soon as we know what it is. In Lantus's message inaugurating the Global Network for the Light of Genesis, he explained that Linda, my mother, the director of the Light of Genesis, would nominate specific people, Continental Coordinators, people who would coordinate the placement of the Chambers of Eternal Light for an entire continent. These coordinators are for 6 of the 7 continents on Earth. We are not going to nominate anyone for Antarctica because it doesn't actually need a Chamber of Eternal Light, but the other continents do. For Africa, our coordinator is Dr. Ginger Bowler. For Asia, our coordinator is Cha-Ching Wu. For Australia, our coordinator is Rachel Davis. For Europe, our coordinator is Norbert Kindle. For North America, I will be the coordinator. And for South America, Samantha Kidd is our coordinator. So these are the Continental Coordinators, the people who will help to coordinate, help you with your planning so that we can make sure that the Chambers of Eternal Light make it to the places where they need to be placed. You can see from the map on the screen, we have a lot of work to do. There are 7,000 of these that have to go around the planet, all around the globe. And we need your help in making this happen. Lantus explained, much like a seed for an apple tree, the seed holds the knowledge and the structure of the form of the mighty apple tree, even in the small, tiny seed. But the seed needs to be placed properly, and it needs to be nourished in order to grow into the tree. You can't just place it in concrete and expect a tree to grow. You can't place it out in the desert and expect a tree to grow. It needs proper placement and nourishment. Same with the star cells. Each star cell holds the knowledge of the structure and form of the great star of Genesis. Clustered together in groups of 10, they create chambers of eternal light. But they need to be positioned correctly and placed correctly. They need to be placed in areas of population. But the arrangement of the star cells into those clusters of 10, the chambers of eternal light, is also important. And it is determined based on the altitude of a region, the altitude wherever they're going to be placed. Lantus explained that each region is characterized by a pattern of energy. This energy is the characteristic signature of that range of altitude. It is the energy, it is the vibration which dominates at that particular band of atmosphere. Now the first band, the first region, this is the realm of land, and it extends from sea level up to 120 meters. This is 393 feet. The next realm is the realm of wind. It spans from 120 meters to 900 meters. That's 390 feet to 2,952 feet. And then above that is the realm of sky. Everything above 900 meters, everything above 2,952 feet, this is the realm of sky. That means that when we coordinate the placement of the chambers of eternal light, we not only have to take into consideration the population centers, we also have to take into consideration the altitudes where these chambers of eternal light are going to be positioned. So what are our first steps? What do we need to do? First off, we need your help. We need you to contact us if you're able to help at all. If you're able to position, or you know someone who's able to place a chamber of eternal light in their home or their office, or is taking a trek out into the desert or something like that, we need to hear from you. Call us, email us, let us know let us know the areas where you would be able to help place a chamber of eternal light. Also, it is important for each person to have a chamber of eternal light in his or her own home. It's important for you to have a chamber of eternal light in your own home. This will not only help you, but it's also important because starting summertime, we're going to be given techniques that utilize the chambers of eternal light. Additionally, you should have the individual star cell tool, the Star of Genesis tool. This is something you will be able to wear. It's also something that we will have a technique for. Finally, with donations, I mentioned earlier when we talked about pricing that donated chambers of eternal light had a special price and they would keep that price. This is because of the 7,000 chambers of eternal light, the clusters of the star cells that need to be placed around the world. Well over half of those will end up having to be donated by people who have the resources and want to be able to help to lift an entire continent or to lift an entire country or to provide for people who aren't able to provide for themselves this light. These people will be responsible for providing over half of the chambers of eternal light for the entire planet. If you want to donate chambers of eternal light, then you can certainly just say, I want to let you place them wherever you want, and we're happy to do that for you. But if you want to adopt a city, if you want to adopt a state or a country or even a continent, you certainly may do so. You can say, I want to position all of the chambers of eternal light for Los Angeles or for Miami. Or you say, I really like London. I want to position all of the chambers of eternal light for London. Maybe you want an entire continent and you say, well, Australia has the fewest people of any of the continents, so let me take Australia. I'll sponsor all of Australia. You can do this, and we will help keep track to make sure that the chambers of eternal light are positioned appropriately so that those areas you want to help out are taken care of with your donations. So we thank you very much for that, because it's going to be required in order for us to make the 7,000 chambers of eternal light go around the world. The water cells, of course, we still don't have information for you on that, but we will get information in the coming weeks and months. They should be available in just a few months, and we will be able to provide you with all the information in due time for the water cells that will be used to initialize your own elixirs of life. We need you to help us in this endeavor, forming the global network of the Light of Genesis. You've been helping us for many years, and we thank you very much for that help. You have helped with your biogenesis treatments. You've helped with the performance of your various techniques of the Light of Genesis. Now we need your help in placing these chambers of eternal light around the world so that we can create the great star of Genesis. As with many of the practices that you do to help others in the world, when you use biogenesis, you also receive personal benefits. And this remains the case even with this activity. Lantos explained in one of the messages we read today, Lantos explained each beloved individual wishing to assist in this blessed program to create the network of the Light of Genesis will become a tool, an instrument of the era of eternal light. One's hands, one's feet, one's life is blessed with the radiance of the form of the era of eternal light, the sublime radiance of the great star of Genesis. So we need your help. The world needs your help. And if you offer help, if you decide to help in this endeavor, you will be assisted because you will become an instrument of eternal light. Also, when you bring a chamber of eternal light into your home, you are helping to create that foundation for the network of the light of Genesis, the global network. But again, your home receives a very great benefit. Again, Lantos explained, as these chambers of eternal light are established in the proper locations, forming the brilliant network of the light of Genesis, your own homes will become holy grounds, grounds blessed with the streaming radiance of the luminous rays of the great star of Genesis. We have discussed at length the details of this global network of the light of Genesis, the star of Genesis, the star cells, the chambers of eternal light, the water cells, all of the different details involved with this endeavor. And it helps to step back one last time to get an idea of what we are trying to accomplish through all of these great efforts. The star of Genesis, the great star of Genesis. Lantos said, it is a structure of light, a beautiful structure of light through which the activities of life, the events of creation will be expressed. All life, all expression will be conducted on this new stage, in this new arena. The old structure, the old arena was insufficient, inadequate. The old framework was incapable of supporting life in its growing expressions of the light of Genesis, life in the growing radiance of eternal light. Dear ones, the precious new structure of creation is forming, the structure to support the emerging radiance of eternal light in this new era of existence. As this blessed structure develops, as this blessed structure forms, the value of life rises, perception rises, cognition rises. There is nothing in the universe on any plane of existence, mental, material, or spiritual, which cannot be directly experienced. This is the value of the beloved star of Genesis. It is the brilliant star of eternal light. And Lantos explained, we are placing these chambers of eternal light as points of light all around the globe. 7,000 points of light. And he explained that this is how we will form the great star of Genesis. He said this great light will emerge first as points of great light. The galaxy of light is seen emerging as points of light. The galaxy is perceived as a collection of all points of light. Yes, the galaxy, the force of the galaxy is always present. However, its presence is seen through the expression of the points of light. Blessed masters of the light of Genesis, we will form these blessed points of light, the individual points of light, which together form the assembly of light, the great assembly of light, known as the beloved great star of Genesis. Thank you for watching, and thank you for everything that you are able to do to help us all together form this global network of the light of Genesis.